One of the major concepts of this body of work is to introduce the biological signals, the biointelligence from living organism in real time data added to the machines, in this case the future of AI as well as robotics. In doing so, we face several challenges. One of the major challenges being that these two entities speak different languages. In nature, in living organisms, most of the communication happens on the analog level, meaning to say they are continuous. Essentially, they are waves of information, wavelengths. On the other hand, in machines, man-made machines, most of the communication is at the digital level, unless you go down to the quantum level, which in this case we are not. Most of the communication is happening digitally, meaning to say that these two worlds speak two different languages, analog versus digital. So the big challenge is how do we make it so that they speak to one another. Last time we talked about other type of computing. Today we're going to talk about protonic computing that has to do with protons. We will also talk about the nanosecond protonic resistors, which are the analog resistors, very, very tiny ones that deal with analog type of communication, and this could potentially be a way in which we can handle this challenge of these two entities speaking different languages with one another. What I'm about to read for you from this body of work, or this book, is part of chapter 3, and this section is called Protonic Computing. Protons, the building blocks of matter, along with neutrons and electrons, are subatomic particles that are found in the nucleus of an atom. They carry a positive electrical charge and have mass. Protonic computing uses small resistors called protonic programmable resistors, where these nanosecond resistors are a type of non-volatile memory device that can charge the resistant state by moving protons or hydrogen ions within a solid material. They are part of the broader category of MEM resistors, which are devices that remember their resistance state even when the power is turned off. Protonic resistors are often made from material like tungsten oxide or similar metal oxides that can host protons within their structure. These materials are typically hydrated, meaning they contain water molecules or hydrogen atoms bonded with their crystal sites. They also have a structure that can host protons within them, and the resistance changes depending on the distribution of protons. The protons in these materials come from the hydrogen atoms within the water molecules, or hydrogen embedded in the material's structure. And the material is designed such that these protons can move relatively freely within it when stimulated by an electrical field. Unlike digital computing, where information is processed in discrete binary steps, aka zeros and ones, analog computing processes information in an analog or continuous way, the wave-like, as we talked, much like how the brain processes signals, or also living organisms, cells, etc. Protonic programmable resistors can be used to create circuits that perform these kind of analog computations very efficiently, because they can represent a wide range of resistance state they can handle more complex computations in a smaller, faster, and more energy efficient manner that traditional digital components can't. Now, how do these proton movements are triggered is actually through electrical stimulation. And here's where their researchers apply a small voltage across these protonic resistors, and this voltage creates an electrical field within the material. The electrical field in turn causes the protons to move within the material, and depending on the direction and the strength of the field, the protons may move towards one electrode or the other, and that is how the information is being transferred as well as translated. It's through the protons. This movement of protons is entirely driven by the applied electrical field. The materials and device structures are engineered to respond to the electrical field without reassuring any mechanical intervention. As their name suggests, protonic programmable resistors, these resistors are programmable, meaning that the resistance can be adjusted and readjusted by applying different voltages. The information process is typically reversible, allowing the resistor to switch back and forth between different resistance states as needed, and this capability makes them useful in application where dynamic adjustments are required. So in practice, researchers design the resistors and the surrounding circuitry such that they can precisely be controlled by the voltages applied to this material. This ability allows them to manipulate the protons in a controlled way, effectively programming the resistance level of the device to perform specific tasks like analog computing. And this is very important because you want these computations to be such a way that they are controlled, because otherwise they can do whatever they want, and in which case you won't be able to really program them or control them to perform any task or do anything. The movement of protons is what gives these resistors the unique ability to handle a wide range of resistance level, making them ideal for analog computations. The electrical charge, specifically the voltage applied across the resistors, as we already talked, determines how the protons move within the material. This movement in turn alters the resistance of the resistor, and the characteristics of the electrical charge, for example, the magnitude or the polarity of it, controls the direction and the extent in which the proton moves, which ultimately defines the resistance state of the device. This is what makes the protonic resistors powerful for analog computing, because their resistance can be finely tuned by simply adjusting the electrical charges, allowing for a wide range of resistance values to switch, which is exactly how waves work. This is how exactly, for example, the information is transferred and processed within our brains and even within the cells of our bodies. These are wave-like type of information transfer. And so these nanosecond protonic resistors are the hardware that we would eventually need in order for the translation of different languages to appear from analog to digital, from living organisms to non-living organisms such as machines. So these would be the protonic hardware, although very, very small, but these are the areas in which are under research that could potentially help us transcend this challenge. And so here also I'm going to read one section of the Protonic programmable resistors for analog deep learning, and then we'll continue in part 2 next time. So the nanosecond Protonic programmable resistors are a type of hardware that can perform computations similar to how the brain processes information. The Protonic part refers to how they use protocols such as to change resistance, and this process happens at a very tiny scale, and researchers are developing these nano-sized resistors to fit into analog computing systems where they can perform calculations in a way that is more similar to how neurons in the brain work. Even though they are very small, they are very real and could eventually be integrated into chips and other hardware components used within the AI systems. And this is where these type of hardware, aka chips, could potentially be our gateway into the issue and challenge we have where analog language needs to talk to digital language and vice versa. Okay, in part 2 of this video, I'll talk about how these protonic resistors could potentially be used in AI systems, and also how they are still being developed as we speak by researchers, designers, and developers, such that they would be able to be used at the commercial level, because right now they are still under investigation and they are still in the lab work. They are being used to some extent, but not extremely commercialized around the world. But we will talk about that. And if you like my videos, by the way, hit that like button as well as the follow button, because I'll talk more and more about this space as well as about the body of work. And one more announcement, I will do the soft launch of this body of work on Amazon upcoming Tuesday, and I'll add the link here as well once I know the link and once I get a link from Amazon Books. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. Bye.